It's Nosh and Schmooze, where we talk about cool stuff concerning the Jews and everybody else. Welcome, everybody, to Nosh and Schmooze. Today, we are here with Jeffrey Greenberg of JNFuture discussing the future of JNF. And as always, if you have questions or comments for Jeffrey, please leave them in the comments section on Facebook, and I will field the questions to him. But first, a bit about my guest. Jeffrey Greenberg became the Miami-Dade director of the Jewish National Fund in September 2015 and the Florida Associate Director of JNFuture in November 2018. Jeffrey discovered his passion for community service while studying at the University of Florida, go Gators, and carried leadership roles in Tau Epsilon Phi at UF Hillel. Following college, Jeffrey worked as an account executive for the Miami Marlins baseball team and explored service opportunities within the Miami community. Jeffrey has served in lay leadership positions with BNI Biscayne Connection, Gator Club of Miami, Miami Chamber of Commerce, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Special Olympics, Anti-Defamation League, American Jewish Committee, and how I know Jeffrey through the tribe of Miami Beach. Jeffrey brings his positive attitude and passion for helping others to his work as a real estate agent, nonprofit lay leader, and nonprofit professional. And we're so glad you're here with us today, Jeffrey. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Rachel. Great to be
It's great to have you. So Jeffrey, what is JNFuture?
JNFuture is the young professional division of Jewish National Fund USA. It's a young community of professionals and non-professionals between the ages of 22 and 40 who are connected with JNF USA's work in Israel. So that means going on trips with us to Israel, attending local events, getting involved in local leadership programs, and obviously those who are supporters and give donations to our incredible work in Israel.
So I've been to Israel. I know what an incredible land it is and just a magical place to be. But for those of us that haven't, why should I support Israel?
So, okay, let me get this cat out of the way. So,
cats are welcome on Nosh and Schmooze. It's fine.
They are, yeah. Especially Chester. Chester is not afraid of attention. Well, why should you support Israel? I think it really depends on the audience that I'm speaking to here. So, obviously for the Jewish people, it is our ancestral homeland, and it is a, incredible story. Give me. Sorry about that. So it is a story of our people and a story of the miracle that is 2,000 years of exile into what is now a thriving, modern Jewish and democratic state. And if I'm speaking with someone who's not part of that Jewish story, it's an incredible bastion of democracy in the Middle East that is providing high-tech, solutions to our current world, and it's also just a place with incredible culture and incredible, just energy that it provides to the rest of the world. So depending on the audience, is how I would really go about it. But there's something for everyone to fall in love with Israel.
So I'd say that specifically with folks of our generation, Israel's probably come under a lot of scrutiny in the past years, and there's been a lot of boycotting and things like that, and this kind of new anti-Semitism, I feel like that's arisen. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So I think that you're referring to the BDS movement, which is the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, or I guess advocacy group, that however you want to define it. It's unfortunately in our current climate, we are an extremely polarized people, whether we're here in the United States or anywhere else in the world for that matter. And Israel has always been one of those, Israel-Palestine, that conflict has been one of those conflicts that has always attracted media attention. And it's something where it's easy to like fall into a side, one side versus another side type of conversation. And unfortunately, this most recent version of the delegitimization of Israel has sort of formed into this movement of BDS, and it's confusing because to someone who doesn't know better, it could just be a innocent movement to call out it when Israel does something, to when the IDF, for example, is taking protesters away from the Gaza border fence and calling attention to that, and it's their First Amendment right to protest and to boycott, and that's all fair. Obviously it is. You can boycott and protest however you like. When we start going into anti-Semitism with BDS is that there is a sort of double standard when it comes to holding Israel accountable for different policy decisions that you wouldn't hold, for example, other state actors at the same level. So there's the age-old, sort of anti-Semitic trope of delegitimizing the Jewish people's just ability to act as any other people would act, while at the same time, there is obviously no one's perfect, and Israel, just like here in the United States, will make mistakes and will do some things that need to be called out and need to be investigated. But by supporting BDS, you are delegitimizing the state of Israel and essentially saying that the state of Israel should not exist, which is where we get into anti-Semitic rhetoric.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have these conversations because a lot of times folks are only getting their media from one side of that spectrum, and it's good to hear a holistic approach and understand that, like, yeah, there's lots of sides to any conflict.
And it's very complex. It's very complicated. This conflict has been going on since the late 1800s, and it's got a lot of layers. And one thing that we like to do at JNF USA is shine a light on the positive things that Israel is doing, and not get into the political weeds of what's going on at the Knesset or what's going on at the Gaza Israel border. We are a 501c3 humanitarian organization that supports the land and people of Israel, and we are really happy with the fact that there are a lot of other organizations that do that sort of advocacy work, and that's their space. But at JNF USA, we don't get into that arena at all.
So what are the positive things that you're shining a light on that Israel's doing?
Sure. So, one of the pillars of JNF USA is our work in water technology. So I'm not sure if you knew this, but Israel actually is the world leader in water recycling. And it's not even actually a close margin. Israel today recycles about 90% of its water.
Wow.
And the country in second is Spain with about 20%. So it's a huge, in terms of technological advancement that Israel has sort of been able to share with the world. And it's a beautiful thing where, as we enter into uncertain times with water scarcity around the world, with rising temperatures and just all the different problems that arid countries are going to undergo, Israel is already light years ahead of a lot of countries in this category, and can share the knowledge that it knows to help them with their own water problems. And actually, it's not just when I say that, you might think of like a sub-Saharan country in Africa or something like that, but actually here in the United States, Israeli scientists are working with our friends out in Arizona and in California with their water problems. So we that's just one example of thousands of Israeli innovation helping to solve world problems. And
That's incredible.
yeah, we try to shine a light on that, and among other things, and I'll give you one more example of the work that we're doing. So in the Negev desert, there's a place called Ale Negev, which is a rehabilitation village, and this is for Israelis who suffer from serious disabilities to go and live full time on campus and receive around the clock attention. And it's a truly state of the art, rehabilitation village that we have supported. And it not only gives quality care to the residents, but it also is an incredible way to bring jobs and to bring more of a healthy economy to this small little town in the Negev called Ofakim. So it's beautiful, and we are always trying to share that Positively Israel story with the world.
Sounds like that's another program that should be replicated other places. So
Great.
Share that, Israel. So, I know that JNFuture in normal times does a lot of fun programs for your participants and supporters. What have y'all been doing through the pandemic?
So we've been doing obviously all digital events. And right now we are on a sort of national, like one monthly event that's distributed nationally. So we've been doing, the last one was Jeopardy, which was a lot of fun, like live trivia. And then we had a cocktail sort of mixology class virtually. So we've been doing some creative, live virtual events. But we are now starting to gear up for a return to the pre-COVID era of in-person events, and we're going to be doing that obviously based on the local guidelines at whatever area we are, because JNFUSA is national, so we have chapters all over the country, and so we're going to go based on what those specific areas tell us to do. But we're looking forward to getting back to the in-person gatherings and sharing what the incredible work of JNFUSA with our young professionals in those areas.
So what do you think that might look like, in maybe the first wave of this getting back to things in Broward County, which is where Temple Beth El Polypit is?
Sure. So actually, and I should have said this from the beginning, but I'm the director of JNFuture for all of Florida, and what that means to me primarily is South Florida, because that's where I live, and that's also where we have 3 very active chapters in Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade. And one thing I would like to do potentially is, and I guess I can share this with people and give a spoiler alert, is that we're going to want to do a tri-county event where we can bring all of our active donors and members to an event together, and it might be in Broward County because you guys are in the center, exactly, and we are optimistic that it can be near around the time of Sukkot. So that is sort of our current goal, but obviously everything's subject to change at this point, as I'm sure the rest of the world understands. But we're optimistic about it.
Cool. Great. Well, let us know when that's gearing up to happen, and we're happy to spread the word.
Thank you.
Why is JNFuture specifically an important component to JNF?
So JNFuture is actually the fastest growing donor demographic at JNFUSA, and it's what in JNF terminology is called an affinity group. So we have doctors for Israel, lawyers for Israel, rabbis for Israel. We have all these different affinity groups, and JNFuture is sort of the young professional affinity group within JNFusa. So we're not a separate organization. We're all one family. And obviously, it's pivotal to connect with the 22 to 40 demographic, and not only to engage them in terms of JNFusa's work in particular, but just Israel in general. There are all sorts of reports and studies out there about how millennials and Gen Zers and other young people have sort of maybe taken a step or a half a step back from their Israel engagement. And at JNFusa, we've invested heavily in making sure that we are truly connecting with all age groups, and JNFuture is no different. So we play a really important role in the overall organization, and our national board of directors, they meet regularly with our, I guess, more experienced national board of directors. So there's a lot of synergy there, and I know that a lot of organizations, unfortunately, there's sort of a it's not as transparent, more of a closed door in terms of having young people, sit at the table with the machers. But at JNFusa, that's not the way. It's very much a lay leader driven organization, and we want to have intergenerational connection.
I love that. Lador Vador.
Exactly.
So, in times when you are able to go on trips to Israel with JNFuture, what does that look like?
So we typically have at least 4 trips to Israel. One of them is a volunteer vacation where you can go and get your hands dirty in the soil and volunteer with the actual people. So the next trip is going to be, actually, if it goes, and we're hoping that it will be this August. And it will be a week-long volunteer vacation in the Galilee, volunteering with farmers, volunteering with local artists to, sort of beautify different areas, and also working with the local authorities to help in any way that we can, whether it's providing food to those in need, or just giving back, to the local northern region of Israel. So we do that trip once in the summer where it goes north, and then we do another one in the winter where it goes south. And the reason that we do that is because JNFusa's work is primarily located in the Galilee region and in the Negev. We don't do a lot in the center because the center is pretty well taken care of in terms of the government's help and just all the different institutions that are there. And another trip that we offer is our singles trip. So for young professionals between the ages of 25 and 40, there's a singles tour to Israel that actually I was lucky enough to lead in 2017. And it's really an incredible trip where we see a lot of JNFusa sites, and also, just get to enjoy all the incredible things that Israel has to offer, whether it's going to the Shuk in Jerusalem or hanging out on the beach in Tel Aviv. This and a beautiful 10-day tour, and it's geared towards singles, but obviously, we have every now and again a couple or two sneaks into that trip. So it's not like if single or you're not coming. And exactly right, exactly. And the actually something we're really excited about is our national conference, which will be this October in Israel for the first time ever. Traditionally, it's always been in a different city in the U.S., but we're planning on doing national conference in Israel in October last year. Obviously, that didn't happen, but we're optimistic that it will be able to happen October this year. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I would love for you to go to our website, jnf.org, and click on travel opportunities, and you'll see the national conference advertisement. And it's going to be a trip like no other. It's a 4-day conference where we'll be staying in Tel Aviv every night, but every day it's traveling to a different region of Israel to see the work on the ground. So really a once in a lifetime opportunity. And like I said, if you want to go to our website, you can learn more.
That's awesome. And I just wanted to share with you that while we've been speaking, our executive director, Shai, who is Israeli, commented, unfortunately, the BDS has made its way into colleges and is supported by administrators. Very sad. Israel is under a worldwide magnifying glass that no other country is. And to that effect, I'm wondering if there's any more programs that JNF supports that Israel is doing that you can tell us about, educate us.
Yeah. What you're speaking about, exactly what I was referring to in terms of the double standard, where, human rights abuses might get overlooked in one country, but Israel is always under the microscope. And it's just, whether it's, the BDS movement or another delegitimization attack on Israel. Unfortunately, I think that's something that we're always going to have to be very cognizant of and be prepared to defend our homeland and our Jewish state. And one way that we're doing that at JNF now is actually we've entered into a partnership with an organization called Fuel for Truth. Fuel for Truth is a young professional Zionist education and advocacy boot camp. So it's really an incredible experience where during pre or post COVID times, we will have in-person boot, like a 7-week boot camp. So that meets once a week, and we'll have instructors, and we'll cover everything from the founding of the modern state of Israel to the BDS movement to all of the different, like terminology that you hear in the news today, whether it's occupation or settlements or any of the hot button topics. This program is designed to help young professionals A, learn about it, B, feel comfortable speaking about it in the public space, and then C, to get more involved with JNF USA. So it's a multi-pronged approach, but I'm fortunate enough to be the JNF professional that oversees the partnership. So I guess I would be the best person to ask more about it. And if anyone out there listening has more questions about Fuel for Truth, I'd be happy to answer it. But right now we're doing it virtually, as is everything else. And our next boot camp will be May 4th. So if you are between the ages of 22 and 40, or if you know someone who is, we would love for them to join us on our next virtual boot camp starting May 4th. And I promise you, it is a experience that will empower you and make you a better advocate for the land and people of Israel.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that with us, Jeffrey. And I did put a link for the JNFuture page on the JNF website in the comments there. So folks can find more information about JNFuture there and your email address so they can get in touch with you.
Thank you.
So Jeffrey, while we're talking about, this kind of new anti-Semitism that has been creeping about, you're obviously a big sports fan and well connected with South Florida sports, the South Florida sports world. Many of our viewers may know that Heat player Myers Leonard has been fined by the NBA and condemned by the Heat for anti-Semitic slurs reported during a Twitch live stream of him playing video games. He's since come out with a written apology for his actions. What do you think the Jewish community's response should be to Myers now?
So I would say that what's happened so far in this situation has actually been very uplifting for me personally, because the sports world universally condemned it. Everyone was quick to act on it, and I think that what happened sort of from when he originally it went viral that this happened to where we are today, there's been a serious spotlight shown on it. And unlike in other situations where high-profile professional athletes have said anti-Semitic things. There was no one that rushed to Myers-Leonard's defense on this. This was universally condemned, and that to me shows that we are that Jew hatred is not going to be tolerated like this, and there's really a sort of a backlash when you're caught on tape saying something like that. And so that to me, first of all, was uplifting. Now, in terms of what we do next, I would love to see the Miami Heat as an organization accept Julian Edelman's proposal, which I don't know if people saw this, but Julian Edelman wrote a phenomenal open letter to Myers saying, listen, I don't believe that you said this with ill will or with hatred in your heart towards the Jewish people. Let's say it was just you were ignorant towards the historical meaning of the word. And by the way, I think it's important for us to say the word as Jews, which is kike. That's only one thing I would say I was disappointed in, is that a lot of news media outlets have only been saying anti-Semitic slur. And that's not helpful when we're trying to express our anger about what he said. We need to know what he said. That way other people can know not to say that and why they shouldn't say it, not just anti-Semitic slur. That doesn't cut it for me. So I would like but anyways, back to Julian Edelman. He wrote an open letter and asked for Myers-Leonard if he would like to join him for a Shabbat dinner so that he could show him a good time, I think is what he said. And I would love for the Miami Heat to accept Julian's offer on that. Maybe host a Shabbat dinner on the Miami Heat court, invite some prominent local Jewish figures, rabbis, Jewish nonprofit professionals. I'm happy to come and attend. I wrote it on my Instagram. I said I'd be happy to bring the Zach the Baker challah and join that Shabbat dinner. And I think it could be a really incredible moment that shows sort of putting our arm around Myers and saying, look, I understand that you might not have, because in his apology he said he didn't know what it meant. Okay, that's fine. So let us teach you what it means, and then let's outstretch our hand to you and solidarity, as opposed to erecting walls around him. I would much rather have us as a community extend a bridge to him and help in any way we can in terms of addressing the word in general, because unfortunately, and I know this as a video game player myself, unfortunately the word kike is thrown around a lot in the gaming community. It's very common. So I'm sure, part of me just feels like he probably heard it hundreds of times and just incorporated it into his vocabulary because it's part of the Twitch community, unfortunately. And so that also needs to have a light shine on it, and Twitch needs to address this as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces here, but it's
out of curiosity, things get heated when you're playing a video game, and I have not been a part of the gaming community in a long time, but what happens when you hear that word or you see that word when you're playing games? Like, what do you do? Do you stop playing? Do you address it? What happens?
Well, obviously the first reaction is anger. And then, it's hard to be in the middle of a video game and say, hey guys, like, here's that word is, something you shouldn't say, and here's why. And right. Also, you're speaking most of the time to random people that you will never meet, and they're all around the world. And it's a tough forum to have that conversation. But typically, if I do hear it, I will call it out while I'm playing the game. And, because it always should be, whether it's anti-Jewish hatred or anti-Black hatred, whenever you hear it, call it out. Just like it's that whole saying, like, see something, say something, like if you're at an airport, like it's the same deal. If it's wrong, it's wrong, and you should call it out.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say that, we also extended invitation at Temple Bethel to Myers Leonard if he'd like to join us for a Shabbat. We're doing an outdoor Shabbat every month, and we'd love to have you and share that with you. And Julian Edelman, if you'd like to come on Nosh and Schmooze, we'd love to have you too.
Let me know. I'd love to come back to that convo.
Absolutely. I will let you know, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, you've sat on so many different boards, like for someone of your age. How do you have the time?
Without sounding too cheesy, you make the time for the things that you love. And so, I do my best to give my time and energy because at this stage in my career, I'm not able to cut the big check. And I hope down the road I'm able to do that, obviously. But as of right now, the best resource that I can give is my time, energy, and 5 years of experience in the nonprofit sector. So I try to serve on different boards that speak to me. And right now I am on, sort of my primary volunteer time is spent with the American Jewish Committee on the Access Global Board. Access is their version of JNFuture, so the young professional division of AJC. And I serve on the global board, and I am the co-chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. So to me, that's extremely important to build a more diverse and equitable, organization within AJC, but Jewish community at large. I think that's one of the most trying obstacles of our time, is to try to figure out how we can really become a more inclusive community at large, and do that without pointing fingers and turning people off. So it's a challenge for sure, but I have a lot of confidence in the work that we're doing and the future of the Jewish people at large.
And I also think, you having sat on so many boards, you have that experience of being diplomatic and understanding how to navigate those territories. So.
Yep, I do my best. And then I also, so as a nonprofit professional, obviously I understand both sides of the table. So if there's one thing if I can give some unsolicited advice, I would tell people that if you're in a lay leadership position, or if you're interested in getting involved in a volunteer leadership role, just remember that, the professional on the other side of the table has the best interest of the organization and the best interest of the board at heart. And it's okay to disagree on things, but just know that there's a certain lay leadership professional dynamic that needs to be respected in any board to be effective. So just keep that in mind. And I've all the boards that I've served on, it's been a beautiful experience, and I've been so lucky to have been participation on all of them.
And you also participated in our poker tournament, and you're obviously a card shark. So where'd you learn how to play poker so well, Jeffrey?
Well, thank you for the invitation to the poker tournament. That was a lot of fun. And I was happy with the outcome. I think I finished in like the top 3 or something like that.
Yeah, you did.
Which was impressive. There was a lot of people, and Mazel Tov on that turnout. I think you had like 100 or so people, right?
I'm not sure we had 100, but we definitely we racked in some good fundraising dollars from it.
Great.
So
Happy to hear it.
Well.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it was a good turnout. So congrats. I actually I learned poker at Camp Coleman. Like a lot of good Jewish boys and girls learned cards at their summer camp, and Camp Coleman was my intro to poker. And then, growing up, a lot of my friends played poker, and so I would play with them. But don't be confused. I am not a World Series of Poker participant. I just enjoy it, but I am not an expert. That's for sure. I just got lucky.
Well, we thank you for your your participation and also the lovely promo for Camp Coleman. Learn poker.
Are you guys connected with Coleman?
Yeah, we are. We love Coleman, and we hope to go back there soon.
Yeah, it's
some of our younger folks.
Incredible. It's an awesome place, and can't give enough Camp Coleman shout outs. It really, I mean, I joke about it, but in reality, it really was very important to my development as a Jewish person. So if you can do it, send your kids to summer camp. It'll put them on a better trajectory in terms of getting to know their Jewish identity.
I 100% agree with that. I went to summer camp, a Jewish summer camp growing up, and I can't help but think that you wouldn't be in the place that you are right now at JNF, if that didn't have some involvement in that. So
sure. I'd say Camp Coleman and Birthright were extremely important in terms of me finding my way to JNF USA.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jeffrey. This has really been enlightening for me and hopefully for our viewers. And and let me just tell you that next week we are going to have we're going to have Tongo Eisen Martin, who is the poet laureate based out of San Francisco. So that'll be exciting, and can't wait to have that. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
and if you make it to that Shabbat with Myers Leonard, keep us posted.
I will be sure to keep you posted.
I'm sure Rabbi Tufts would be happy to do a little drosh.
I will be if this happens, I will be sure to let you know for sure.
All right. Bye.